If there's one thing that you should know about Britain, it's that we drive on the left of the road. Now that's different from China, and it's really important that you know that, because if you go to Britain and you want to cross the road, you have to remember that the traffic is going to be coming from a different direction. Now, why, might you say, why do these crazy British drive on the wrong side of the road? Well, it's not as strange as it seems. In fact, around 35% of all countries drive on the left-hand side. And that includes a lot of ex-British countries like Australia and New Zealand, but other countries as well, like India or Japan, drive on the left. Now, the reason is, actually, it goes back a long way. It goes back to history, because in the past, people used to fight a lot. There were a lot of battles, and people used their sword to fight with. Now, of course, most people are going to be right-handed. So if you wanted to fight, you needed to be on the left side, because that allowed you to use your right hand with the sword in fighting. And for that reason, if you ever visit a castle in England, you'll notice that the stairs will always go up in a clockwise fashion. And that was to give the advantage to the person at the top, who would be the defender, who would have his right hand that he could use more easily. Now, as you may know, the French don't like the British very much. And many years ago, there was an emperor called Napoleon, and Napoleon was left-handed. And he said, we can't do things the same way as the British. We don't like the British. So I am going to change. I am going to make my armies march on the right side of the road. And all the wagons and vehicles and horses would go on the right. And that gave him an advantage in battle, because now he could use his left hand. And it meant that he was doing something different from the British. And that rivalry between the French and the British is still there a little bit today. So that's why we drive on the left. And you need to be very, very careful when you're crossing the road. Remember, if you want to cross the road, you should always look to your right first of all. Then left, then look back to the right, to make sure that there's nothing coming. Now, generally, the British are quite good drivers. It's quite hard to get your driving test, and we drive generally, very carefully. Particularly, there are so many cameras in Britain. This is one of the things that you'll notice if you ever drive there. On the roads, there are cameras everywhere. And that's to make sure that you obey the speed limit, you don't go too fast. Now, one of the things that you should know if you go to Britain is that we use different units of measurement to talk about speed. So we don't use kilometers, we use miles. So all the signs that you see will be miles per hour, not kilometers per hour. So in a city, you might see a sign saying maximum speed 30. And you think, 30 kilometers, that's so slow. But it's not. It's 30 miles per hour, which is about 48 kilometers. So you'll have to make that a little adjustment in your head. Otherwise, there will be a camera watching you, and you may get caught, you may get a ticket, a fine, you might be stopped. But generally in Britain, people drive fairly carefully, fairly safely, so you shouldn't have any problems on the road. Thank you for watching. Join me again soon for another video with me, Cambridge David.